Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining Unified session Beyond Ellucian, the only retention platform driving engagement. We'll begin our discussion momentarily. I see a few other people have just joined. Want to welcome you to today's conversation, Beyond Ellucian, the only retention platform driving engagement. Joining me for today's call is Kyle Stevens, co-founder of Unifyed and senior product manager. And I am Len Napolitano, president of Unifyed. And I want to start off today's conversation with just a few ideas and thoughts that we've had. And I say we, Kyle, the entire Unifyed, our clients, and me with one another. And that conversation is, what can we achieve with not only our existing stack, but reimagining our, the technologies that we have, our staff that we have, in order to drive a 5% improvement year over year in retention. And when we thought about it, and our conversation started a little over a year ago, we realized, let's go to the research. Because when we go to the research and that research is proven, and we incorporate that research in a new type of way of thinking about product, of thinking about technology, together we can achieve the results. And you know what? It sparks important and interesting and dynamic conversations. And we hope today's 30 minutes does that on your campus, in case with us or with others that you're using, because we all have the same goal. Let us improve student success. We invest millions of dollars, of hours. We go through success coaches and nudges and touches and technologies. But you know what? We haven't moved the needle. Let's reassess. That's okay. That is okay, because our time is worth it and we're already putting in a lot of time. And so when we think about it, I want to, talk about that research that we're using. Tinto, Braxton, Aston, Beam, right? All of these individuals play a role in our technology. But not only our technology, but how do we make things better? When you think about whether it's Aston's research or even Tinto's, the student feeling connected and how they feel connected and where. So reimagine your communities on your campus. We know Ellucian experience, communities isn't what they're good at. That's okay, right? There are things Ellucian's really good at. Communities, events isn't one. The interconnectivity of those communities within your LMS, not their core thing, right? But communities come from both the LMS and outside the LMS. And as we think about our students, whether community college or a residential student, those communities still play an impact on making them connected. How we think about our models and where those models come into play, and the ability for those models to represent the complex components, behavioral, academic, financial. These are all circumstances that Braxton talks about. But those circumstances represent themselves not only in the student engagement, but also in our staff engagement and our advisors. And so we came up with the new idea of that interconnectivity between engagement and retention, but the execution of it based on research. And as I mentioned, that's what we're going to demonstrate today. But this wasn't our idea. Unified was born out of a partnership with 12 institutions a little over 10 years ago. And we've had iterations like many other companies, and we're very proud of this next iteration in our journey, coming together to not only reimagine our journey and our purpose, but also our clients to reimagine that student departure journey and the retention journey. And when you think about that reimagination, together, we came up with the thought. It is one platform with two highly interconnected modules for engagement and retention. That's the way it was built. Not 4 different systems, not 7 different systems, but one system. One system where AI is intrinsic, inherent to it. One system where communities and events, tie into everyone, not just the students, but more importantly, what a student sees represents them and their journey, my academic journey, my interest, my professional desires, even more important for our non-traditional students, but not too dissimilar just for our staff, for advisors, where AI isn't making their job easier from spell check, but actually giving them recommendations based upon best practices of the research I just alluded to, so they can be more insightful to the student as they are working with not 200 students, but maybe 5, 6, 700 students. To think about each of those students' journey is hard. Well, today we want to show you and demonstrate the confluence of that. And perhaps today's demonstration would lead to more dynamic conversations and in part lead to improved retention rates. With that, as you can hear my enthusiasm, I will turn it over to Kyle for him to continue that enthusiasm.
All right,
Kyle's on mute,
appreciate
so
it.
it's like me. Darn it. I was like, yes,
Uh,
this is my moment. It's like my bar mitzvah, right? You gave me the microphone. Okay, tough crowd.
all right, awesome. So appreciate it, Leonard. And so, right, we're gonna start the experience, right? We just skipped the login process. So, right, you've logged in. We've logged in this case as a student, but the engagement platform and really the StudentX platform and the different modules support all the different personas that you're gonna have on campus. So, students, it's what we're focused on in this view here, but certainly it can support staff, faculty, kind of intranet views that contain very similar functionalities. So, right, we're logged in as a student, and what we can see front and center here when I log in is one of the 6 delivery channels that we have for messages within the platform. So things like push notifications, SMS, these pop-up notifications, email. Right, we have several other options as well. Right, but we can use all of those to deliver critical messages to specific audiences. So these messages get delivered to students, one of 3 ways. So this one is actually coming from our retention module via a intervention plan that the student's been assigned. Right, so there's certain actions that need to be accomplished to complete that intervention plan for a student at risk. This is one of those items, right, that a student would have to complete. The second way is we have a backend API. So if you want to push messages and notifications through those different delivery channels that we have, right, we have that API available for you. And the other way is we can just send manual messages. So you can authorize certain message senders to deliver via certain delivery channels to their defined audience. So we can just send manual messages as well. Right, but this one's letting me know that I need to upload some verification documents. Right, so I can go ahead and close out this notification, jump over to my tasks, and then see, right, submit income verification document. Sure. So I can go in, upload that document from my machine. Since it's only a single document, I can go ahead and now mark that completed, and we can go ahead and save that task. So the user, the student in this case, was prompted via the pop-up notification and potentially other delivery channels to go ahead and complete this item for their right intervention plan from the retention module. And they're able to go ahead, complete that item, and we'll see that show up later in the experience from the advisor's perspective as well. Right, so the student can be, prompted those calls to action to go ahead and complete certain items, but otherwise, the engagement platform is right there. There's one-stop shop for most of what they need around campus. So whether that's communications, single sign-ons to other critical systems, right, or other communication channels. So this is where the engagement side kicks in. So, right before we get into that, we do have the ability to bring in, I think, over a dozen or maybe a few dozen at this point, right, integrated applets. So whether you're running, Banner, Colleague, or, Workday for your SIS, right, we've got, a dozen at least for the SIS, and then we've got other dashboards for like Canvas, Gmail, Calendar, all of that stuff to really create these Power Pack pages where I can have content coming from the CMS. I can have the financial aid advisor coming from the student information system. financial aid summary and requirements for the current semester, as well as announcements, right, all in one page. So instead of going to multiple places, pages, whatnot, I can at least get a good snapshot of my financial aid status, what's new, how to get to the scholarships and loans, right, all from that single page. Right, so the engagement platform has a content management system that has 50 plus, pre-built applets that you can kind of plug in and leverage as needed. One of those is this activity feed where users can kind of pick and choose these different interests to opt into, and that'll determine what posts show up in their feed. Right, this gives them a level of personalization, allowing them to kind of curate their own feed. Now, these aren't the mission critical messages that we showed on the landing page, right? These are potentially those emails that were going out maybe 10, 15 years ago that students would complain about, right? Because they might not be interested in right, whatever subject, whatever play is going on or whatever sporting events going on, right? And it may not be mission critical, and then users missing actual critical messages right, because of that flood. So this allows users to opt in and out of these different interests. We preload it with like 15 to 20 that we find the most useful around campus, but certainly you can add, edit, delete any additional interests. Uh, right, but users can get into these one of three ways. So we can just allow it to organically grow. Right, you create the free food category, and users can just opt into it as required or as they see fit. The second way, maybe for campus parking, we can opt users into it, right? To say, hey, maybe all students need to see campus parking posts, but if they're really not interested, they can go ahead and opt out. The third one is we can go ahead and opt users in, but then lock them in so that anytime we use campus announcements, we know that all students are going to see that in their feed. Not necessarily the spirit of the activity feed, but certainly we've heard that requirement before, so we added that option. Right, so this gives the user that curated view of the kind of optional messaging to further enhance their right, their campus experience. So we took this concept of the interests and kind of curating your feed and extended that over to other areas of our engagement platform. So communities is our concept for like clubs, groups, organizations, right? Any place that kind of needs their own little web space, the ability to communicate, send messages, store resources like documents, folders, files, whatnot. They also get their own connect or activity feed, right? So they can see the posts just related to their clubs and organizations. What we did was take the information about the interests that you're following, how many times you're liking, commenting, whatnot, on those interests, and we use that to suggest you other engagement opportunities. So if I'm liking posts about AI and drone technology and whatnot, right, you can go ahead and suggest me maybe computer science club. So similar to like Netflix and other things, it'll give me a suggestion score as well as the category of why it found that connectivity, right? So hey, because of AI and technology, right, it's a 93% match, right? So we can take that concept and also extend it to events around campus. So each of these communities can have their own community event calendar where they can create events that their members can view and register for and even track attendance, right? So the user can see any of the events from the groups that they've joined in this view. We can also funnel in global calendars, such as like orientation calendars or just global, event calendars from like 25 Live, O365, Google Calendar, really anything that's an RSS or an iCal feed. We can bring into the system, sync it, and then allow you to, view the details. You can set the registration limits, wait lists, and all that stuff, as well as create tickets that we can store to the Apple and Google wallets, where then your host can scan the tickets and actually mark the attendance for the attendees. And so all of this information about the user, navigating the portal, when was the last time they logged in, what's their favorite single sign-on, do they check their, account summary often? Right, all of that information, as well as the student information system data, right, when they're paying their bills, what their outstanding balance is, right, as well as the learning management system data, like, when was the last time they, submitted an assignment, what's their current grades, attendance, all that. funnels into the retention system and helps our models inform right when we need to create cases for high, medium, and low risk students. But that's it from the student perspective. I think quickly I'll jump over and show what this looks like on mobile. So let me re-sign in quick. But then this should be visible. Right, so very similar to what we see on the student welcome, right? We have on the native mobile app. So again, just skip the login page. But basically, this is one of the options where we can just have that same content that's available to us on the website be available to us within the native mobile app. We also have a flavor of it where we can just send you to whatever page you'd like. And that could be a mobile specific friendly landing page. That way you don't have to touch your website, and you have to make sure that everything is super beautiful in all areas, right? But this everything looks good out of the box in both web and native mobile app from our perspective. But when you start creating your own content, right, that's when right you want to be worried about that. So right, that's the native mobile app, super quick in a nutshell. But anything else you wanted to add, Leonard, before we dive over to the advisor view?
No, just to reemphasize something, this represents the individual when they log in. So as you're organizing, whether students by cohorts, the things that interest them, the AI also will adapt. So what they see here is unique to them. That is a fundamentally unique differentiator of this platform, is how it continues to adapt and represents me, whether I am a student or staff, and then also via the mobile. But what I really love next is that staff, especially the advisor experience.
All right, awesome. All right, and so let's dive into that advisory experience. So now we've gone ahead and logged in as the advisor. So same instance, same URL. We've just logged in as a user with a different persona. This one happening to be an advisor. So we land on a different page. It's populated with different widgets, but this allows the advisor to see at a glance. Right, I have 400 advisees. I have 106 high risk cases, medium, low. I can also see alerts, so students that are at risk of falling out of SLAs to complete their individual, right, their different plans for intervention. We can then see my day at a glance. So our system supports a scheduling system where users can request meetings with their advisors based on their availabilities, and so those will show up here, as well as the distribution of their primary risk areas and also their intervention effectiveness. So obviously each advisor is going to have a different set of skills, so they might be better at one intervention type versus another. This allows them to go ahead and track that. So we can start a day in the life of this user. They've logged in, they've kind of scrolled their homepage to make sure there's no, fires. But then they log in to maybe their, dive into maybe their highest risk cases. So any of these, triangles are going to denote that a, recent negative change has happened for this case. So maybe a good place to start. Let's dive into Olivia's case, and we can see, what's causing that alert. Right, she should have scheduled a session, and that's overdue. And also, we see a drop in attendance recently. So that information is helpful. That's where we are right now, is this risk overview for the case. Basically, anytime one of our models finds we have four models, and those models are basically looking at all that data that I mentioned from the engagement platform, from the student information system, from the learning management system. And those models are looking for different things. And when it finds a certain risk level, and that threshold is configurable by you all, it'll create these cases and automatically assign them to your academic advisors. Right. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. We're looking at one of the cases that was created for Olivia, right, based on the risk that was identified. And so what risk was identified? We get an AI summary of what that is here, right? And then we can also see the main areas of risk. So as I mentioned, we have those AI models, but we also just have a manual referral or alert system. Some folks refer to this as like an early warning or an early alert system. But basically a see something, say something system where those authorized can go ahead and drop a note that, hey, Olivia was acting strange in class today. That's normally not her behavior, right? Maybe something to look into. So that goes into the system and gets processed accordingly. as well as the different models can produce a different level of risk. So unlike some of the other systems in this area, right, that might say, hey, I see a 70% risk in academics, and hey, can I buy a vowel? Like what went into that? Right. So you're able to, in this case, see exactly what went into producing that 80% risk instead of just seeing, hey, overall, there's, 70% risk. Right. So this gives you a good snapshot of, why this case was created and the potential problem areas. Right. And so we can view the intervention plan if we want. We can see a summary on the front page here. We can see the user just submitted their income verification documents, right? That's what we saw in step one there. If we want to dive even further in, we can see the details of when it was created, any quick notes that were added, and a timeline. That way we can just track, hey, are items being completed in a timely manner, or there's some gaps? Maybe we need to send a reminder, right? So that intervention plan is kind of the key to trying to get the user back on track, be it in academic, social, whatnot. And that's why different intervention plans exist, right, for different symptoms that we want to resolve. Next is the communication history. So obviously, in the process of completing your intervention plan, there's going to be communications between the advisor and the advisee. We want to track and log all of those in the case that the user is transferred to maybe another advisor. They want to see kind of what was that communication historically, maybe what's the best way to reach them, right? All of that can be gleaned from right, the communication history. We can send new communications as well as log calls. That's the only thing you can't do directly from the system is make a phone call. But certainly you could log any call that you do make. Along with communications, there's probably going to be appointments that are required to complete the intervention plan, be it remote or in person. So this allows us, right, to go ahead and create a new appointment. I mentioned there's already the ability for the end user to schedule an appointment with the advisor. We can also view historic appointments, so any documents or attachments that were transmitted during that, any notes that were made, session activities, start time, end time, maybe they were a no-show, right? That's all logged in the appointment section. And then any appointment notes are going to funnel over to this notes section, as well as any ad hoc notes that are just made along with this case. Right. And so that's a lot of information about Olivia, a lot on, the progress and the risk and, where she currently stands, to complete that. But, right, we saw something about an academic or, sorry, an attendance risk, right? But we didn't really see anything in here about it. So we also have a user 360 view that can even further inform the advisor on what might be going on. So using the integrations that help inform the models, right, we're also able to pull current information, perhaps from the LMS in this case, right? So I can see comms 210, right, 58% attendance, and hey, that's actually negatively impacting the grades, right? So other courses, right, 90%. Higher marks, 88%, again, higher marks. So, right, there might be an issue. Is it timing? Is it, location? Is it the professor? Right, there may be some issue that we could go ahead and resolve, but this at least helps you to identify where that risk may be. Similar with financial, right? Cost of attendance might be a lot higher than the received aid. So they might be able to encourage them to certain scholarships, grants, et cetera, that help to fill that gap. Or is it engagement? So are they joining communities? Are they liking posts? Are they commenting? Are they, a part of the, either digital or on-campus experience? And then finally, this is where any of those authorized users would be able to see something, say something, and go ahead and create that manual alert. So again, not there for every single user in the system, right? But for those, faculty and other authorized users, they're able to go in and make the, the note that again gets processed similar to, right, the other data within the system. So I know that was a lot in a little bit of time, but Leonard, let me know if there's anything else you want to reemphasize there or set up
No,
before we
what
dive
I'd,
into director.
what I'd love to emphasize is as we think about AI, I call it the two AIs, artificial intelligence and advisor impact. And everything from alerting advisor when there's a change to case creation to the ability to summarize activity to then have the 360 view. I mean, those three things alone, it's not only ease of use, but it's how do you create a construct based on research that will make the advisors more impactful in their stressful days and really making it in some ways one click, but just as important as we're going to touch upon, how do we make it impactful for the director or the leadership to create those strategies and assess the efficacy of those strategies?
Excellent. All right, and so we just saw the advisor view. Now let's take a step back, or let's go further up from the 10,000 foot view to the 30,000 foot view. So no longer do I just see the 400 advisees. Right now, I see the full set of advisees, full set of cases as I log in. So again, same system, different persona, different set of data displayed to that user. So now my alerts relate more to my advisors going out of SLA for certain tasks they're supposed to complete. We can also see additional information about those advisors. So the top performing, lowest performing based on caseload, see success rate versus caseload, and certain specialties that your advisors may have. We can apply certain AI insights to kind of give you certain areas to focus on from that director or high level perspective. Right. And so this is good. These are helpful data to kind of point you in the right direction of what might be going on. Other areas we can go into, deeper analytics. So a lot of this might look familiar to what we saw on that landing page, but we can see kind of which models are producing the most cases. We can again see our risk distribution across the entire student body. So no longer just for that individual advisor, but now everybody. Certain mitigation strategies that we're finding either successful or not, highlighted there. Deeper diving into that advisor success that we saw on the dashboard, just diving into the certain individual metrics if needed. Certain intervention plans, as I mentioned, or intervention, tasks and plans. So different ones are going to have certain levels of effectiveness. They're going to take different amounts of time, to be completed and to see the results. So just tracking those, bits of data along in this analytics as well. Communications, just helpful to kind of keep an eye on things. So, if you're expecting 30,000 or 3,000 messages to be sent in a given period, and you see it's three, there's probably something that we need to do, a problem. So just able to kind of keep an eye on things in this analytics to make sure that everything's coming along as it should be. And now the most important thing, arguably, here are the models, right? So we mentioned that this drives that case creation, to then distribute them to the assigned academic advisors. We can determine which models are active and creating cases. We can see their high level metrics for how accurate and useful each model is being. We can also go in, see those details as I mentioned. And then we can go in and actually tweak the models to fit our needs. So if we have no extracurricular activities at our campus, well, we can't use that against a student as a potential dropout risk because we don't offer it. And so each school is going to have a different set of parameters that are going to uniquely be tailored to them the best. So we've created this. You're not going to start from scratch. We've created these models based on information from dozens of current campuses, from large R1 institutions to a couple hundred student rural technical and community colleges. So this will be trained well, but again tweakable or configurable to fit your needs. Because what we don't want is it to create a bunch of these cases frivolously and assign them to your already overworked advisors. So this allows you to keep that control. So not only can we influence what features are going into the model to be calculated, but we can also determine what our low, medium, and high thresholds are for the case creation. They can also set individual rules to say, hey, automatically create a high case if, based on those rules. And finally, after we've made these changes, the most important part is being able to simulate the effects of those changes to, again, avoid creating, 1,800 high cases for all of your advisors who are, again, probably already overloaded, overworked, trying to do their best. So the opposite of that, we want to try to create these cases intelligently try to highlight the information in that case to see, hey, what's the problem? Where can we, try to resolve it? And then using those intervention plans to track, the user getting back to the successful path. So I think we'll pause it there, Leonard. I know we're just almost at time. So yeah, that's the kind of director of advising view. The middle one we saw was the advisor, and the first one was that student view. So again, Leonard, back to you.
Great. Thank you, Kyle, and thank you for allowing me just to conclude today's session. As I mentioned, we started today talking about what can we achieve and what can we achieve when we have a robust conversation with one common goal to improve the student journey, reduce the number of students that depart, and in essence, retain our students. And we decided to take a different approach at Unified with our partners, say, based on the research, what can we achieve with one platform that has two modules that create the intersection between engagement and retention that sits on top of Ellucian. And the reason we did this is because the strength of Ellucian is not experience, is not retention. It is this robust system to manage the operations of the campus. But now we have all these other applications. Well, think about that one platform, the fact that we can do the risk profile and the rubrics. Wow, really interesting on what that now does for your success coaches and making them more impactful. Or as we think also about those models, how we then leverage that to Braxton's theory. And something that Kyle showed us was the ease of adjusting them, but the ability to take pre-existing models and adapt them for a cohort, for a program, right, for your institution. And reimagining notifications and nudges, right? It's the aggregation and starting to see that intersection. And when those multitude of intersections occur, to then notify and alert the advisor. You see, it's one thing to say you didn't create, a post in a discussion board. It's another thing to see how that lack of participation there, with perhaps a lack of participation in community and a lack of participation in other areas and a lack of engagement in all the other applications you've invested in. That, and to make it easy for the advisor, is just as valuable. I know we've gone over. I want to thank you not only for your time, but also know that both Kyle and I are here to continue the conversation, whether it's to give you some insight to the research we use, to talk about your institution and the journey you're on, or as you can tell, we're both so passionate about what our teams and our clients are doing at Unified, to share with you how they're creating environments unique to them so that they can be successful in their mission. So reach out to us either at Kyle Stevens at unified.com or nap@unified.com. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. And thank you for your time this afternoon. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone.